Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to cover best practices on teaching topic 18, the essay part 2. My name is Rory Hatfield. I'm a full-time pre-college live online instructor for Kaplan, and I'm here just again to show you best practices, including how to cover the 4 P's, how to cover info banks, how to attack the prompt, and how the transitions pages and the exercises in the guided practice can particularly help your students do better on the essay. I'll close by mentioning how test day approaching and how the essay is placed at section 1 should dictate the context in which you teach this lesson. But first, I want to get the highlights. Because there's no way to predict what the essay topic will be about, you gotta have students prepared to answer any conceivable topic. Enforce the 4 P's. Particularly how there's 1 minute for the prompt and 4 minutes for planning. You'll be adhering to those time limits during your exercise during the guided practice of this topic. And again, 18 minutes to write, and then 2 minutes just to check for omissions and common errors. So make sure that they know the time limits and what the 4 P's stand for when they walk in the test day. Now the next page really focuses on info banks. They're a great way to get students to sort of predict what they're going to write about. I strongly encourage you to urge your students to brainstorm and write about on test day topics they love to talk about. Not just what they like, but what they love. The difference being, if you like something, well, you might enjoy it, but you might not be able to write about it. Like, for example, I like the Rocky movies. They're cool, I like catching them on cable, but I would have a really hard time answering any conceivable question about them using Rocky. Now, I love the Star Wars trilogy. I've got all the books, I've got all the DVDs, I've got the movie poster of The Empire Strikes Back on my wall, I went as Han Solo for Halloween last year. I love them. And consequently, because I like thinking and talking about them, I could conceivably write an essay using the Star Wars trilogy as an example for any conceivable prompt. Now, you might not be a fanboy like me, but encourage your students likewise to find something that they love to talk about. It could be something like the Hunger Games. It could be a sports team they're on. It could be a TV show they like, a class they take, a trip they took. The permutations are endless, but the important thing is that you define what they should write about, give them some examples from your own life, and if they need some inspiration, you should direct them to page 652, just like that. Because remember, when they're facing the time pressure of the test, they need to rely on something that they feel comfortable with and can describe in great detail. And so if they know going in they'll write about stuff they love, that's one step closer to a higher score in the essay. Now, particularly when you're talking about the prompt, excuse me, I'm just dialing up the slides right here on page 654. Encourage students to take 1 minute and immediately attack the assignment question. If students ask, say, be familiar with the rules before the test, so that way they don't spend any needless time reading them. Have them spend 1 minute determining if they answer yes or no. Most of the time they should have an opinion rather quickly, but if they don't, urge them to look for the prompt for inspiration. Maybe the different students have different phrases. Maybe they read seldom follow it and inspired to say, well, maybe people who offer advice are usually wrong. Or maybe they see advice givers may be well-intentioned, steers them towards a no. You can say the same things for good thing, always wrong, reinforcement of our own choices. This isn't a particularly scientific method, but you want to urge students to look at the prompt, particularly if they need inspiration to decide yes or no to argue that prompt. And after a minute, if they still don't know, encourage them to argue no. It's way easier to disprove something than to prove something, and you want to have students to have that the comfort and the confidence that comes with knowing exactly what to do to start off the test. I also strongly recommend that you take them through the transitions page on 655. Give them a minute to identify the transitions, because not only will it help them on the essay, but it's a great skill for the critical reading section if they can recognize transitions in the passage and in sentence completion questions. And finally, I'd love to end with this exercise on page 671. In which you actually have students decide on the prompt and spend 4 minutes making the plan. And again, encourage them to to do those first 2 steps at least. It's a great end of class exercise, and it gets them some practical practice following steps 1 and 2 and getting them the setup. Remember, those 2 steps are the first things they're going to be doing, not just on the essay, but on the test. Make sure you rehearse that right before you go into the test day to-do list. Now, I'll close here just by talking about context. By the time you teach topic 18, this is going to be the last thing that you have with your students before they go and take the test. Also, keep in mind that the essay is section 1. It's the first thing students will do on the test. I know that doesn't seem like that big a deal, and students will know that, but they need to let that dictate their strategy. Namely, in the 10 to 15 minutes before the test on test day, remind students that while their friends are freaking out and not actually focusing on the test or spacing out, they should gear up and think, you know what, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I see that essay. I'm going to turn the page, I'm going to read the prompt, I'm going to plan, and I'm going to use info banks. If my info banks don't work, I'm going to make up an example, because lies count on the SAT essay. So again, approach this lesson with that context. It's the first thing they'll do in the test, and if they do it right, it's going to calm their jitters, decrease their anxiety, and set up a wave of confidence that will hopefully carry them through the test. Remember, don't just teach facts, teach them in the context of the test. Your students will pay attention in a situation where they might otherwise be tired or just plain ready to end the class. Thanks so much for listening, and if you have any other questions for me about teaching the essay, or really anything else test related, please email me at rory.hatfield@kaplan.com. Thanks so much, and good luck teaching.